My name is Matthias, and today we'll be covering Chinese opera, or Xiqiu. It's a very rich art form spanning multiple millennia, and we will be going over a little bit of its history, what it is, and a few types of Chinese opera. So to start, Nanxi was one of the original forms of Chinese opera founded in the southern Song dynasty in the capital of Hangzhou, around the region of Anhui, in the years 1179 to 1276. It was the first time Chinese theater had been brought to a larger stage and was the beginning of modern Chinese opera. It began to grow in the region and formed in Anhui. Anhui became the capital of Chinese opera. And in 1790, four of the biggest troops from Anhui moved to the capital of Beijing in order to form the Beijing Opera, which would eventually take the form of modern opera and spread all across China. You can see here, Chinese opera is a very vibrant form of entertainment, and it is a perfect encapsulation of Chinese culture. 300 regional variations, around 360 to be exact, all of which are spread across mainland China and reflect each region's cultural and musical differences. Often these operas have different music sounds as well as linguistic sounds, as each region has a different dialect. However, each Chinese opera does derive itself from folk stories and legends. The stories they often tell are passed down through generations and are very ancient and old morals. Chinese opera is also comprised of many art forms such as song, dance, music, martial arts and acrobatics, and costume and makeup art. All of these specific art forms combine to form the complex beauty that is Chinese opera. Each singer is very highly trained from a young age, and they often sing with a very high pitch, and the melodies they sing are often reflective of typical instrumental melodies. They have a very distinct sound and a very unique way of singing that you only really find in Chinese opera. As far as the music, typically found in the background is traditional and often mimics what the singers are singing. So usually, if you're listening to Chinese opera, the singer and the music will sound very similar rhythmically. The music is typically traditional and derives many of its sounds from traditional Chinese instruments such as bamboo flutes and other stringed instruments. Each Chinese opera will have different regional instruments that help make each opera unique. And the acting in each opera is often very intentional and graceful. They have very specific movements and are very into face acting. So they've been very highly trained from a young age, and each face movement they do is for a reason. Every eye movement, like if they move their eye to the left or right, there's some meaning behind it, and every way they sing. For an example, this woman here is actively singing in this picture. Her mouth is very tight, and it's a very unique way of singing. The way she is positioned is for a reason, and you don't find that often in many operas. One specific type of opera, in fact the most popular type of opera, is the Beijing opera, a type of opera that was formed from the four Anhui troops in around 1790 and is the most popular, located in Beijing. Some key characteristics are it is a maskless opera, which means every character has an exposed face, typically covered in makeup, and it has very strict rules, especially in terms of musical style. It'll have a very specific cadence and rhythm, exclusive to Beijing and maybe the surrounding areas. And one of the more interesting parts is the actor roles that are there. First, you have the Don, which is the honorable woman in each opera. You have the Sheng, which is the honorable man. These two usually go hand in hand and can look very similar. You have the Jing, which is very distinct. As you can see, there is a face full of white paint, which is usually how you can denote a Jing character. This character is often very powerful, like a warlord or regent. And you have the Chou, which is the comic relief clown character, jester character. As you can see, they are denoted by the white box around their eyes and nose. And these are the four main types of characters in every Beijing opera. You'll see them all around whatever opera you see. As for another type of opera, you have the Sichuan opera, located mainly in Chengdu, which is the capital of the Sichuan province in central China. The key characteristics are that they do have masks. In fact, masks are an integral part of the Sichuan opera, as these masks carry a lot of meaning in their art, as the art has been passed down through generations. It is a very respectable art form in those regions. The Sichuan opera is also very lively in nature. As you can see, this actor right here is breathing fire, and oftentimes there are lots of acrobatics in a Sichuan opera. Sichuan operas also have a more humorous sense to them. Sometimes they're almost comedies in a way. So as you can see, the difference between Beijing and Sichuan operas is quite interesting. At their core, they both have stories about folklore and legend, but each regional difference is enough to differentiate them enough. The singing style is very similar, but the way they sing and the music behind will be different. And obviously the masks are different, and just the general energy behind each opera is going to be different, and it's very fascinating. And yeah, so that is a brief synopsis of Chinese opera. I hope everybody watching enjoyed learning a little bit about the rich culture of Chinese opera, and I encourage everybody to do a little bit of research on their own. There will be a link in the description to watch a video of a Chinese opera. I highly encourage everybody to watch it because it's a very fascinating watch. And yeah, see you guys.